combat theater once in Bosnia with a stabilization force, and at least 2 times in Iraq. So he's well battle tested, and he's certainly well experienced. And so we're fortunate that he'll kick off our talk today. We also have with us Mr. Justin Weatherwax. Justin is the deputy district engineer with the Europe district. He's been in that capacity for about 1.5 years. And he comes, of course, highly experienced in all things USACE and is the senior civilian for the district. Justin also serves as the vice president of our Rhein-Main SAME post. And so we're very lucky to have his contributions to the leadership of everything we do as a post. And thirdly, we have Mr. Lalit Vadva, and Lalit is the chief of the programs branch at Europe District. Lalit's got the distinguished claim of being probably one of the 2 longest serving members of the district at this point. I'm pretty sure he is, having started in 1995. I guess that makes 26 years. I would say Lalit knows all the skeletons in the closet there. And he certainly is probably the best person to let us know about what's coming up the road that we would all be interested in, those of us that are in industry. So they'll be presenting, and then afterwards we will open the floor for any and all questions. And as you are listening to this briefing, I encourage you to formulate those questions. Feel free to post them into the chat at any time along the way, and we will moderate those later, or you can ask them in person yourself. So with that, I am going to turn the floor over to Colonel Dagan, and thank you very much for making yourself available, sir.
And Margaret, thank you. And Sheree, we talked about it up here, 6 feet away. The speaker can be 6 feet away, so I'm just going to take my mask off. I think you'll be able to hear me a little bit better, a little bit more personal, hopefully. But you know, good morning, and Therese, thank you for all you've done for the SME post, and Scott, welcome to the SME post. And it's really good to be with you today. I remember doing this 1 year ago, and it was all virtual, and now we're doing this hybrid. It's exciting to be in the room, although Therese, we were just here in November.
Yes.
Again, many more uniform in the room. That time it was the UCOM Africa, so that was a good opportunity too. So, and we've seen each other several times over the 18 months, but it really doesn't feel like 18 months. It's gone extremely fast. And I was going to do introductions, but you know, I think Margaret did a great job with them. I do want to introduce 2 more of our team that are in the room. And please, if I miss anyone, if I miss you because of the mask, raise your hand and I'll introduce you as well. But first we have Roger Vogler is sitting immediately behind Sharice and his team. He's our Chief of Engineering and Construction. He's relatively new, also somewhere between that 16 and 18 month mark, as well as, and his team's going to be talking to us about the Torn later. He'll be in the room. His team will be virtual. And then directly behind him, we have Chris Tu, who's our Director of Contracting, also relatively new, coming in around Thanksgiving of last year. So a very new team at the senior leadership, except for Lala, who needs no introduction. We got one anyway. And I know that's what you all came to talk about and hear from. But I just want to give a few opening comments, kind of get some discussion going here, kind of talk about the district a little bit more. I think I can do a little bit better job about that with that this year than I did last year, being brand new. But I mean, bottom line is I'm still learning every day, but always impressed with our folks, with our partnerships and our program. And we'll go to the next slide. And, you know, and next slide. As we talk about this, we talk about USACE giving their programs overview, but really this is our program that we're talking about here, because we couldn't do it without everybody in this room, everyone online, and really a much broader audience than that. To include warfighters sitting over there across the way at USACE down in Stuttgart, UCOM, and AFRICOM, and then everyone else who we deliver this great program for, to include families. We celebrated the delivery of 4 schools last September with the ODIA, and it was just an awesome experience. Each school doing it differently and bringing kids in to help us celebrate. Some choirs were singing. Some of the elementary kids had practiced a song for several weeks to sing, and almost every time having the color guard from either the high school or the junior high involved, and it was just really nice. But it's great to be here as a team sitting in this room or online. I do want to talk about, and Lala's going to look forward, but I want to talk about all that we accomplished last year, because you might not know all we were able to do. It was completely virtual most of the year. It was under restrictions, and it challenged all of us. And I think everybody stepped up amazingly. I think we learned some critical lessons. I think we're going to apply them in the coming year. But let me just, a few stats here. So last year we awarded 2,000 actions. This is as of September 30th at a price point of $700 million. Included in those were 11 MILCONs. And that includes EDI, family housing, and a school down in Stuttgart for construction. We also saw, and that's included in here, was the return of 2808 funding that came from the border wall. After change of administration, we stopped building the border wall in that district and returned a lot of that money in Congress. And headquarters DA is still trying to figure out exactly what to do with that money, but we saw some of it return, and we were able to award that. And then most recently, so this wasn't last fiscal year, but last year, on December 30th, we awarded the Rob MCR a medical center replacement. Many of you have seen the site work and the groundwork go in for that, but this is actually the building to go up. So we're extremely proud of that team that was able to put that together, to include the German government, our team, contractor Zublin, the designer HDR, and I'm missing one or two in there, but just an incredible team effort, really over 12 years. Since 2012, but really since July 1st of this year, have really been cranking from the first number we saw of the bid. So congrats to that team. And then very soon, I think we'll see some additional Army Family Housing awards too. So we're excited about that. Continuation to supporting our warfighter and their families, so they can go forward to contingency locations or to different operations and feel comfortable that their family is taken care of, at least from a facility standpoint. Yeah, and Lala, thanks for skipping to this. This is really where I wanted to go, but this is just our mission lines. I tried to hit on all those in my last few comments. I'll go to the next slide. This is our district footprint. I know lots of you have seen this over time. You see it every year. But if you are new to it, so it hasn't changed very much. But if you are new to it, we array our district offices, generally speaking, at the same locations as garrisons or smaller garrison offices, area engineers. We have resident engineers, standard use construction. We have regional program managers forward to serve all the garrisons, and those will work directly for Lala, whereas the area engineers and resident engineers will work directly for Roger. But very similar footprint. I guess I'll point out, the question was asked earlier about Israel, and we are still working in Israel, and I think you're going to hear some really exciting news with respect to the Israel program. I think it's exciting. I thought it was exciting last year, but I think it's even going to be more exciting in the years to come. And let's see, I think that's all I wanted to cover. We can answer questions on our footprint, but essentially, this is how we're arrayed. Oh, one more thing I may point out is we have set up a project office down in Abuja, in the same location as the embassy. We're delivering an FMS program for the Nigerian Air Force down there. And we have one project engineer down there, and lots of contractors, and they're doing a great job. We hope to head there in February to do a groundbreaking for the second phase of that program. And we'll see if we get to do that. That's actually been on the schedule and off the schedule for about the last 6 or 7 months. So that's exciting work. We see the end of that work in the next several years, and we don't anticipate anything more from the Nigerian Air Force. But that's been a really exciting project, especially as we tried to get down there over COVID. So Wallet, I think that's where I'll leave it and turn the floor over to you for the exciting part of the program. Thank you.
So my name is Lalit Wadhwa. I'm still 6 feet away from the front desk here, and I'm standing here because I want to see the screen. So like I said, I've been in Europe busy for a while. This is my actually 7th or 8th job. So we have other people that I'm looking at, my battle buddies here like this too, as a lifeline in case you have questions during the presentation or after the presentation. What I'm going to tell you is several of you wrote to me and wanted to know the status of some of the big projects that Colonel Dagan talked about. So you will see some of that so that you can plan accordingly and see the successes that you actually contributed, and also what our future looks like. All right, so I'll take like 30, 35 minutes. This is an update like we do every year, what our workload looks like, what our current and future looks like. You can see that we still have MILCON as our center of gravity. We are here for MILCON. And this is our total program at any given time, like in the year, and we keep updating it. So you can see, I'm pointing people actually on the camera here or virtually, I'm pointing at the blue box there, the pi, which means 69% of the MILCON or 70% is MILCON work. And that's what we hear. But on the top left there, you see the distribution of workload. This is design and construction. Rough order of magnitude. This is where our funding line is, and this is what we're doing. And this is currently in the district. The next slide that I'm looking at is the MILCON program only, right? The previous slide was everything. This MILCON program shows $5.2 billion worth of design and construction. And you can see the types of MILCON projects we have, right? The 3 biggest pies are, we have the hospital that we just awarded, right? It's gone up from 1.2 to $1.5 billion now. And 1/3 is completed, like 99% done. The infrastructure, we'll talk about that in a minute. Then we have a DODIA program. Everybody knows, we're building these 29 schools, and half of them are done, and we hand it over. We'll talk about that in a minute too, because I have a slide for that. And then the EDI is converted now. I think Al Luck will correct me. I don't know what the right nomenclature is, but I don't think there's EDI anymore, right, Al?
Well, it's still ADI, it's not special funding. It's
Okay.
part of the baseline budget.
Got it. Okay, so we're still carrying that as a big load there. And then, of course, which is not on here, which is on MILCON, is called PPI. Okay, it's a Polish provided infrastructure. We'll talk about that later on too. And the next slide I'm on shows you the locations. Okay, you can look at it in your leisure, the locations in Europe where these projects are being executed. And majority of them you can see are in the Western European countries and Northern European countries, and a couple of them are Eastern European countries. But I call them legacy countries. That's where our center of gravity is. If you look at the bottom of the chart, Germany has a big blue bar, okay, big blue bar. Even though we got all these 15, 16 countries, but Germany, Belgium, Turkey, Italy, Romania, Bulgaria, we keep spending money there, and we got lots of experience in those countries. Now we are into uncharted territories, Slovakia, okay, even parts of Romania like Camp Turzai, Luxembourg even. We have never done work before in Luxembourg, stuff like that. So that's where we need your help too. I keep saying that every year when I come here, is that it's one team. We represent each other, right? So those are the countries we're getting into. And this is the non-Milcon. Everybody talks about Milcon, but look at it. We got over $2 billion worth of non-Milcon, which is SRM, FMF, NSIP now, NATO Security Investment Program, which you are getting to also uncharted territory for the last 2 years. But we have a lot of work. We actually get judged by our stakeholders on SRM work more than Milcon work, because that's their money, right? They want to know how effective we are. So that's a snapshot of non-Milcon work, which means a lot of work. Okay, I've seen this chart, shown this chart several times in the past. The next chart, which shows rough order of magnitude, right? Even though we are in Europe, right, European Union, but every country has a different unique construction design, construction methodology and requirements, fire requirements, environmental requirements, construction requirements. So you got to be very careful when we're designing stuff, constructing stuff, that some things are unique in Belgium, in Germany, in Israel, in Romania, Bulgaria, anyway, et cetera, et cetera. So our Office of the Council, keeps an close eye on these requirements, legal requirements, contractual requirements, and you should get familiar with those. I don't want to go into each country, but we still have, Norway, Slovakia, Denmark, Czech Republic, pending country agreements, finalization of those, even though we're designing work in those countries, but we still are going through the process of doing IAs, implementing agreements, and other agreements like VAT and stuff like that. If you have any questions at any time, please ask right away. Okay, now the next series of 4 or 5 slides show you a little bit more into the mega projects and the projects that you all been tracking for the last many years. And I've got at least 6 emails since 30th of December saying, is it true? Is the contract awarded or not? So it is true, right? We pulled off this miracle. And I don't say it lightly. We've been working on it for a long, long time. I'm talking about the Rob MC. Okay, and it's awarded to a joint venture, Zublin and Gilbane. And it was awarded 30 December after very long negotiations. And we're getting additional funding in future by Congress. It hasn't been approved yet, but OSD promised us that they will go for it. But bottom line is, you will see construction start. Okay. Now, construction start means, I take it back, you will see progression of construction. Construction started a long time ago, and we are like 99% done on the infrastructure part. And if you are involved in any mega projects, take it from me. Okay. This is the way to go. Because we went through the whole process and started the infrastructure to get rid of all the unforeseen site conditions, getting the design for the utility infrastructure stuff taken care of before the vertical construction starts. Okay, so theoretically now, right, the construction contractor who's going to do the Met Center is basically going to go to 100 meters any direction and connect the utilities right there. Okay. And we excavated the whole area to the depth where there should be hardly any unforeseen site conditions, like no UXOs, there should be no hazardous materials, there should be nothing like that, because we dug it to that depth. Okay, so that's the way to do it. We're doing that at APS, Altism site, you'll see that in a minute, same way. Site prep, cut the trees down, and then do the vertical construction. So it worked out time-wise too. So very proud of this. This layout has not changed. From Zublin has a contract to build exactly like this. Okay. So we did not change the scope. We did not reduce the scope. We just adjusted when we're going to do certain parts of the building so that we can get the additional funding that we need. But the design looks like this. So a lot of people in this room also contributed towards that. Thank you so much. It is being constructed by, of course, oversight of German government. But we, the core, will have an office there, and it's called IPO, and we're going to monitor the whole construction all the way through. Right now, it says here awarded, but I can tell you that the timeline is tentatively 2027 is the completion. Okay, that's our completion date. But depending on how we progress.
How are you going to monitor the construction?
Well, Construction, as you know, this is an indirect contract. So German government is responsible, right? They've also hired AE to oversee it. We have a field office with the PMO, the PM. So our people are going to monitor German government and the construction contractor. We may also engage Title II services. We are not there yet. Okay. But it has to be matrixed in with the German government and Zublin, what they're doing, what German government is, and what we do. We have a straw man, but we do intend to hire Title II in a couple of years from now. All right. But we have the design of record on the contract through LBB, who's going to review the submittals from Zublin that we have. Okay, so very proud of this. I mean, I can't think any better way of celebration of early January than saying, no, we got there. Okay.
Hey, Lalit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Margaret. Hey, since you said we could ask questions about this project, are there any like really noteworthy, innovative type things in terms of delivery and stuff that are being instituted that we could learn from, or any like really difficult challenges that have been overcome in an innovative way?
Yeah, I could take a day to tell you that, Margaret, but let me tell you the noteworthy thing. The noteworthy thing was that after 8 years, I think we can demonstrate to you that we started out at the right direction when we said, hey, let's separate the infrastructure from the Med Center, because we, the US, right, we had no idea either. We didn't know what this hospital would look like when we got the 1391 given to us. So we said, while we figure this out, innovative thing we did was we went to the Germans and we said, we will hire our own AE to define the 15% and revalidate the 1391 while you, the German government, design and construct the infrastructure. That was the first, I'll tell you, it was golden. It was the first thing we made right. We made the right decision, because look at it now, the infrastructure is completed, right? Number two, there was a lot of environmental, and that's the other thing, I'm glad you brought it up. During this design, right, the environmental laws changed in Germany. It changed, was not reflected in 1391. So the innovative idea was we went to the German government and we figured out a way of incorporating those laws without much changing the scope of the project, and did have the impact on the cost, all right, but we did not change the scope. It was a big deal. I mean, environmental law, NF law that came out, it was a massive change. Number two thing that changed was UCOM changed the ATFP requirements. They changed it. They said, you got to implement it. Was not reflected in 1391. We figured out a way of making sure that the scope did not change, but the cost did change. But scope didn't change, didn't have impact of it. And we can offline tell you how we did it, okay? And the other thing was, there was a protest by the German government, not German local NGOs. I don't know, I won't remind you all, it was a big deal. We, the US, said, you know what, you're right, we are going to do a full public coordination as opposed to the SOFA that says you don't have to do full public coordination. And we open it up to everybody in that community, everybody throughout Germany to comment on our project, and we handled it right. Okay, so sometimes we should not be scared if somebody is protesting. It's better to wait and answer the questions than have protests forever and the project never gets done. Okay, that we did. And then we brought in some experts, right? We brought in experts to relook at the scope of the project. I'm talking about experts meaning outside agencies, AEs, to look at our hygiene requirements, okay? So to get permitting done, permits, without the permits, which got done October of last year, without the permits, you cannot do any construction. But the German laws, okay, that's a good point. What I'm going to tell you is that applies to some of the projects that we do normally. The German laws for hygiene are different than US laws. Okay, some of the US laws doesn't even address the German laws. So we brought in an outside agency that went through very laboriously. Okay, I'm not talking code compliant either, or code comparison. I'm talking about one by one, addressing every single German comment about hygiene. I'm talking about the permitting agencies, and addressing the design so that, that's why it took this long, so that we achieved the permitting documentation at the same time meeting the US requirements. Okay, so the innovative idea was we chose a specialized firm, I don't know where, from where, it's called Hebera, it's north of Germany. And, okay, got it, from sorry. We brought them on board, Margaret, and that's how we did it. Okay, so the team got together, it took a year and a half, no, 2 years actually, to do that. So those 4 or 5 ideas were pretty innovative. And I think we're going to apply lessons learned to some of the other projects that we have similar issues on. But we can talk more. I mean, we got a list of lessons learned here.
Thank you.
Okay. So quickly on the DODEA program. DODEA is our jewel program, right? Look at it. There are 28 schools. We might get 2 more schools probably, but we delivered already 14 of them. Okay. The other are in future years. You can see them on both sides of the chart here. And these are 21st century, you know, as if we didn't have any learning in 20th century, but it's 21st century schools. It's pretty good. If you haven't seen one of those schools, please go down to Wiesbaden, visit it. It's really fantastic. Or Ramstein, or in, we're turning over school this year in Grafenberg too. So DODEA program is a great program, 99% indirect. 1 is direct, which is in Belgium. So 99% indirect. But we have encouraged USACE to be joint venture with the Germans, which most of our schools are. Okay. There's a US component to it. So yeah, the DODEA program is a good program. You can see 1.5 billion, half is done. The other half not in design yet, but I'll say 1/3 of the second half is in design. The next chart I'm looking at is the Autism APS project, called a flagship project for USARA. First time uncharted territories. We're expanding into, we're setting up, you know, for Russian deterrence. Some projects in the eastern flank, and Poland is the next hub, I'll call it. So we're constructing this bunch of warehouses, Autism, long-term equipment storage and maintenance used to be called APS. We're like 60% construction done. Another project, right? I mean, it was a fantastic project by the partners in AECOM here who designed it. And we are constructing it with a joint venture construction firm, Polish and US and German. It's fantastic. I mean, this is what we did in 3 phases. We had trees there, we had Natura 2000 issues, we had all kinds of issues here. But we went and got innovative and got it done. Natura 2000 is in Germany or in Europe, if you don't know, the bunch of forests, they're marked as absolutely untouchable. You cannot cut those forests down. And I'll strongly tell you that we learned a huge lesson here where jointly US team cited this project, not knowing this in Nature 2000, and the Polish government overlooked it too. But in the end, there was a very small portion of it when we had to cut the trees, but it was a nightmare. You could not get that in Germany. They will say, go away, you know, because they are protected. So anyway, a bunch of warehouses. If you happen to be there in Powitz in Poland, go visit it. It's a fantastic site. I mean, it's like 300-400 people working there, and touch wood so far, we are going to finish this calendar year. The next one is also a called MSA project, about 200 yards, or I'll say half a kilometers away from APS site, which is linked with the railhead. The railhead is going to be completed this month or next month. And just right here, pointing it out. And the MSA unfortunately got protested. We're going through a construction protest, and we hope, across our fingers, that that will be gone by February. Okay, and we start constructing that. And this is a really good project too, where you have 54 igloos, hardcover magazines, and it's a mixture of money from FMS to NATO to Milcon and Airlux money and all that stuff. It's all there. But we're ready to start. Okay, and we plan to have a ribbon cutting. The groundbreaking there probably in March, April time. Okay, and next is not in details, but overall Israel FMF program, feather in the cap, right? You heard all the rumors, and last year people were sending emails out, hey, is it going to TAD and all that stuff? Well, that's people above us. But right now, the decision has been made that Europe District will continue to execute Israel. And it's a really great program. I mean, one of the big things we're doing here is that they have FY35, F-35 bed down, several phases, and I think over 26 aircraft, so about half already there. So we're building a bunch of hardened aircraft shelters with some taxiway runways and power plants, stuff like that to support it. I'm just telling you one of the projects. Okay. But it's average of like 60 to 80 million dollars a year placement that we have. But we have a huge program coming up, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This is it. So pay close attention to this because we want you to start thinking about it, right? So there are 3 bases out there, but I'll concentrate on 2 bases. Telenor is one of them, and Nevatim is the other one. So they're getting new aircrafts, and they're going to do a bed down. Okay, we're planning. We had a briefing given to us by the Israel MOD, and they're very serious about it. Their FMS cases, their FMS cases are LORs, I'll say, are going through the system. We'll convert it to LOA very soon. So month of February, I was told yesterday, last night, I haven't shared that with Colonel Dagan yet, that they're asking us to come to the team in February and visit these sites so that we can figure this out. Okay, the one project I'll tell you they're sharp on is to award the runway project this calendar year. So we don't know where we are yet, but look at this, right? So we got all these projects here, and you can look at it in your slideshow there, and the next page here. These are upcoming projects, and they're going to go on, to 26, 27. Okay, that 24, 26 is a construction program, so the design starts now, means in the near future, which will be done by the Israel MOD. We'll review it, we will award it. Okay. And Mr. Tu here and us will get together and figure out the future because we don't know what this looks like. What is the best possible way of acquisition strategy based on the domino effects when they're needed? Do we combine projects? Do we do industry day? When do we do it? All that stuff. Okay. But stand by. This is socialization of this program. The next series of slides is what you came here for. Okay. These series of slides will tell you what we have in 22. So people who are doing UCOM projects, you're totally familiar with it. We are going to execute these projects this year. We have the funding for it, most of it. Look at the countries we're looking at. Okay. And we're looking at some innovative ways of doing these things, which I'll tell you that, we want to make it localized. Mr. Tu has convinced me that he'll have to do something different. I still have to see exactly what's different, but I'm totally convinced that he's right. We need to figure this out in such a way that it's more efficient. And as you know, HA, the word humanitarian assistance, is that maximum money should go to the humanitarian assistance, not to the overhead. Okay, so we're going to figure this out, whether we do simplified acquisition or a C contract, combine them, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So stand by for that. UCOM, this is the AFRICOM, same way, but most of these projects you should have seen because they're left over from last year. Last year, the money was diverted towards, I don't know what the thing was called, OEW, okay, for support to the Afghan refugees or whatever that's what we're talking about. So they're left over from last year, and they plan to fund them. Still don't have the green light yet. So you should be familiar with these. If not, slides are available. And have a look. These are Milcon project. Next slide. Direct contracting. If I'm too fast, please let me know and ask any questions. So I won't go project by project, but these are really projects that we're going to execute. I just want to talk about the first 4 projects, which prompts me to talk about what PPI is all about. Okay, so let me tell you what PPI is. So a couple of years ago, the previous president of the United States signed an agreement with the president of Poland, Duda, who's still there, and said that if you want our support, our forces there, you Polish government have to pay for it. And they signed it. Okay. So we're in transition. Some were Milcon already there. So the US hierarchy makes a decision, execute this one with Milcon and execute this one with NSIP, blah, blah. 99.9% of the projects are being funded by Polish government for design, for construction, and our labor for core, for USACE labor in-house. Okay. Everything, lock, stock, and barrel. But there's not much money, to be frank with you. Not much money. So we have 13 to 14 projects in 22, calendar year 22. All of those projects have been funded, whether the design or planning or construction, in calendar year 21. By middle of December, we, the Corps, received all the money. Okay. Like I said, some for construction, some for design, some for planning. So forget the construction, because the Poles are going to do construction themselves. I won't say forget about it. If you're a construction contractor, we did receive your resumes, which was passed on to the Polish government. And there's a list of contractors that they not pre-selected, but it's on the list with the Polish government. List of contractors, okay? A lot of you have applied for it, and it's on there. But concentrate on what I'm going to tell you, planning and design, right? A lot of people know that, but I'm preaching the choir here. So through our contracting, we are going to start AE process, the tone process, where we want to start the designs, okay? Under this PPI agreement, we, the users, have to give them what they call PCP. It's a project criteria package. Project criteria package, you will hear this word if you're associated with PPI, okay, which means 0 to 35%. So either we give them 15% or we give them 35%. But we, the US, have to do that. We have to define the requirement. We say, Mr. Polish government, now finish the design and construct it. That's an agreement, took us a year to do, and that's what we ended up doing. So 90% of the project will be 35%. Any questions on this? Okay, so please stand by. There are altogether, I will say, I'm going by memory, 5 or 6 projects that we need your help on, which John Benson is tracking, and I think we're going to publish it, Chris, on the list out there, that we need to have planning and designs done, and done soon. That's a PPI program. The rest is family housing projects. We are about to award these 3 top projects there that Dagan alluded to. The others are in Vicenza. Some of you are totally involved in that. And also the FOSS is called in Israel. That's going to be coming out later on. You know, it's already, the market survey already went out for construction, and it's going to be coming out soon. All the others are in design.
Lalit?
Yeah.
So you said when you were speaking about PPI that we should focus on planning and design is what the district would be doing. And then you said you would be starting with design. And you didn't mention planning again.
I take it
So
back.
I just wanted.
Yeah, and planning and design. Sorry, Margaret. I meant both. Planning and design.
So everyone should expect to hear more from the engineering team about those projects coming forward in this year.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was on the bottom 4 on this projected direct contracting. The question is asked, are those SCIFs? And my answer is yes. You well spotted.
So are they going to the SCIF contract or will they be separate?
So right now we're in design. We haven't come to a conclusion on how we're going to do this yet. So yeah, more to follow.
Someone asked in the chat, Lalit, will the bomb holder program projects be for the SOCOM end user?
99% yes. Those are the end users, yes.
And will they be, any secure requirements be handled with the NAU SCIF secure MATOC?
It'll be a combination, Margaret. We were only talking to them a couple of weeks ago. So we haven't finished the CSP yet. So we're still trying to determine how we get the CSM on board and how we're going to do the construction surveillance between NAU through a contract and the AO from SOCOM. So decision yet to be made, but we are closing in. Don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, going on to the projects. As you can see, we have a lot. If you have any questions, let us know. But you know, the first one on there, if you want glory details, talk to Al Lux. Okay. He will tell you the nightmare about this project. But anyway, we are completed with the design. I think the Luxembourgian government has to give us some kind of approval, and then we can go out on the street with the best value. Okay, that's a really great project, by the way. You know what that is? That's just like a lookalike for the Air Force APS. It's a bunch of warehouses. That's what that is. Gas. And then the other uncharted territory is Hungary. Okay, we have not done work in Hungary before. Construction I'm talking about, right? So we're going to be targeting these 4 or 5 projects and getting set up in Hungary in a couple of years, or a year and a half, and talk about how we're going to execute those projects. New country. Norway, okay, I call it still future, but Norway is in a mix where Al can tell you even more. The Norway is also uncharted territory. We are doing 4 or 5 projects out there. Some are near design, on shelf, some are in design, but we're still going through the Norwegian government MOD to actually get some permissions and get reviews done. Plus, some of the costs have gone up. So all the above, right? So stand by on Norway. I think it's a goal, Al, that design is going to be ongoing. We're not going to finish.
Well, the DAPS is like 95% done.
Yeah.
The agreement, defense cooperation agreement that has been signed by the MOD, it's in public comment, it needs to be ratified by the Parliament, then things will pick up.
Okay.
Silly agreement.
Got it. Okay.
Lolly,
Yes.
Lolly, could you repeat what Al said for our online audience? Because it was a little bit hard to hear.
Yeah. So Al said he has no idea what he's talking about. So anyway, Al said that that the DCA was signed last year and is going through the public comment through the public comment period, and the expectation is this year, hopefully, that the Norwegian Parliament will ratify it, and then it will speed up. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
It's, in Norway.
So the question is asked, which location? Is that what you're asking? Right. So there's a place called Riga. Okay, that's mostly it. I don't know of any other location. That's it, right? It's Riga. Okay, did you hear that online? The location in Norway?
Yes,
Riga.
yeah, Riga. It's northeast or southeast of Oslo. Norwegian Air Base.
Right. I'm on the next slide here. I know it's taking a little time, but the next slide here, I'll hurry it up. Are these base contracts? No, is it Israel? Oh no, these are the Israel projects, which are like nothing to do with the program earlier. These are additional projects which are being tracked. Okay. In 22 and 23 and 24. Not 100% sure that these will be 100% funded, but they're on the list. Yeah.
Sorry, for the Israel projects like this, are these going to be designed through the Corps, or are these
No.
all?
Each one of them will be designed by the Israel MOD. Yeah. Okay, now we have some of the base contracts where the market surveys are out, some of the RFPs are out. These are the IDIQs of MATOCs and JOCs and SATOCs. You can see it. You know, we are. Wait a minute, am I doing the right thing here? Yes, I'm saying the right thing. So Germany demolition MATOC slated for award this year. Playgrounds is going to come out very soon. Georgia is out, and we have a site visit pre-proposal meetings coming up. Greece, I think, is happening this week already. People are out there. And Romania design build is also issued, and Turkey is in future. These are our bread and butter, by the way. We'll need your help. Then we have the AEs that John Benson can talk later on, but these projects are slated for this year. Slovakia, and then there's a target to award Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. You can ask John Benson the status of that. He will tell you. Italy is coming out very soon. Africa, we're thinking about, and Turkey also coming out, but we got to figure out how. Because as you know, we have issues with Turkish base for access and all that stuff. We just got to sort that out first. These are AE contracts that we are planning. Okay.
Do you want to have John talk about those now in case people aren't able to attend the afternoon session?
Okay. Hey, John Benson, can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know.
He is online, but he might have, maybe he got engaged in something.
Okay, somebody will send him an email, I hope.
Okay.
And then towards the end of the meeting, I'll prompt him again.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on the next slide. Indirect projects. I don't want to go into details, but I always encourage you to please keep an eye on it. Get your contacts. Some of you have very good contacts with the BAWAMs. We always encourage at the federal level, at the local level, that we were looking for joint ventures as much as possible. A lot of them invite us to the selection board, and we are there. Okay, but please look at these projects. A lot of range projects, maintenance shop. These are big projects, by the way. Milcom, indirects. Okay, next slide is also indirects, but Air Force. More indirect projects for the schools, DODIA program, what I was talking about earlier on. Spangdahlem Elementary School is actually designed, it's nearly done. It's going to be construction. Caton Middle School design is like 80–90% done. Launch tool design is 80–90% done. Clay is about 65%. Ramstein Middle School is middle. Robinson Elementary School is about 35–65 done. Barmwood Elementary School is about 95% done. Okay. Memorize these. Okay, that was my last slide, but here's my last slide. Look, I have a couple of things that I think I want to share with you. Where we need your help, right? Where we need your help is, as you know, the world events, COVID and everything else, is cost estimate. Okay, wherever we open bids, 50% of them we busted bids, if not 60%. Okay. So we need your help in coming up with some kind of model. And we're doing that in-house too. We're talking to some of the BAWAM people too. Is please come up with some trend analysis. All right, it's also situational, locational. You know, the price of wood went up. I mean, it's not only in Germany or Central Europe, it's in the US too, all over the place, right? So the wood goes up and then goes down. We have steel prices going up, copper going up. Labor shortage. You know, US is one continent. You know, if you go from California back to down to New York, you're not crossing any borders as such. Here, you go from Italy to Portugal to Spain to Germany, every border has different restrictions. And for the last year and a half, we experienced on our construction that we have delays. And biggest delays, oh, it's stuck at Italy. Or the Portuguese workers came to Belgium, they got quarantined. Right? Cost goes up. People working in Spangdahlem saying I get more money in Luxembourg, so they're bailing out. They're getting 35% more money. So what I'm saying is we got to come up with a solution to this madness in the sense that some order of magnitude, right? Collectively together. So I'll tell you that invest some time into it because we, the Corps, are going to look into it. Because we got to project our 1391s. We got to come up with a cost. Right now, we are hand jamming the cost. We told Huntsville that our area cost factor does not work. We keep giving them our new cost estimates. So what I'm telling you is that collectively, because the costs are coming from you all, right? Collectively, we need to address that cost estimate issue. You know, Rob MC Award went up like crazy because the prices were up. We have opened bids on family housing and real estate, the prices went up. We have to go on ATR. Schools, prices are up, another ATR. ATR is above threshold requirement. They have to go to Congress for more money. That's a single thing that drives your projects now, whether we are awarding the project or even executing the AE task orders or not, because we don't have any money. Because these projects were programmed 4 or 5 years ago, right? So please look at how we can address the cost estimating, whether you're doing a planning 1391 or you're doing a construction design, completion of design and giving us costs. And the last thing I'll tell you.
So,
Yes, go ahead, Margaret.
so Lalit, on that point, for your knowledge and for everybody on the call and in the room, the next program in February on the 23rd, it's going to be an extended 2-hour program that's going to incorporate all 3 European posts, the UK, Rhein-Main, and the Kaiserslautern post. And the topic will be cost estimation. And we will have Will Daly from Europe District, and we're going to try to bring in Patricia Bolton, the cost engineer for the whole North Atlantic division, and several AE members who have been this past year doing the cost schedule risk analysis process. And we're going to learn about all the initiatives that USACE has working to try to get better at this, and then talk together about how we can all contribute to that solution. So really encourage everybody to be involved in that. And Lalit, if you can come, that would be great as well.
Oh, that's fantastic news. That's great. So yeah, thank you for doing that. That's great. And the last thing I'll tell you is, I was trying to say that, we still have scheduler shortages throughout USACE. We keep reaching back. So, we're still looking for schedulers. Eventually we'll get somebody, whatever. But I'm talking about generally speaking, even the construction contractors have issues getting good schedulers. So scheduling is a big topic too, in entire Corps of Engineers. But I want to finish the last slide by saying this, that look, several areas, at least in Europe, we rely on you to represent us, the US. So we're all one team together. We have to be working together. Without the AEs and the industry and the construction and of course the customers, the whole team as a whole, if we're not working together, where you play a big role. And I cannot emphasize you enough that I was very proud of some of the team that went to Poland, went to Romania. We had nobody out there because we couldn't make it, but you represented us. I got really accolades from the MODs and from the governments and even the ambassador's office that, a couple of years ago and last year early, that how well we were represented. And they didn't even know there was no USACE person. It was actually an AE representing us. So we have to work together. I can't thank you enough. And the thing we have no control over is on this last slide, the budget impacts. We have no congressmen here, no senators here. Exchange rate changes every year. So thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'm open to questions now. Hey, John Benson, are you on there now? John?
So John wrote me and said he was having trouble getting his mic off.
Okay.
I'm looking at his microphone now and it appears to be open. So are you still not able to from your end, John? And Charisse, is there something you can do from your computer?
No, there's nothing that we can do, Margaret. This is a problem. Some people have had difficulty. Perhaps he could dial in on the phone. There is a phone number he could dial in.
We'll do, when he starts his session, the first thing we'll do is say address these four projects. Okay.
Well, actually though, John and I were speaking earlier, so it was working.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, his mic is open.
Hey, John, can you hear me? All right, if you can hear.
Can you hear us?
If you can hear me, John, when you start your session in the afternoon or after the break or whatever, please address the 4 or 5 projects we're going to procure this year, the AE base contracts. That's the question in the room. So I'm pretty sure you can hear me. So when you start, just address it. And I'll give you a call during the break. Okay.
Yep, he can hear you.
Yeah, what I would say is that side, we're focusing on this afternoon session. I think we owe you an increased granularity on all of it. So basically, we'll make the commitment to follow up where John can't address it for whatever reason. Every one of these
Excellent.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
So Sharice, you want to repeat that just in case it wasn't clear? It's a little hard to.
Come on up so that everybody can see you as well.
I'm sorry, what I was gonna add was, I know some people can't participate this afternoon.
A little further over here, so it's on the camera.
Okay, sorry.
There you are.
So for the folks that can't participate this afternoon, what I said was, I think we owe you folks, industry in general, greater granularity on the things that Lala talked about. There's a lot going on there, and we're still making the sausage. But as soon as we can, we'll get back together with you and we'll talk about it in greater detail, how we intend to procure it and when we intend to procure it, so you guys can prepare. I know how important that is. You put together your business plans. Okay? Sound good?
And who is that that's speaking, please? Is it?
That's Chris Stu, the chief of contracting. I think we first met when you were a colonel in Iraq a long time ago.
Great. Hi, Chris. Thank you. All right. So we have Sharice. We need to tag team here. I've got some questions that have been posted in the chat that I can read, but I also think you would want to entertain questions there in the room. So maybe you want to start?
Well, if anybody has a question, I'd ask maybe you come up closer to the front and say your question so that everybody can hear.
Yeah. Well, they won't be able to.
Anybody, any questions?
Or I can start with the questions I have if you're.
Nobody's raising their hand here, Margaret.
Nobody here's raising their hand. Maybe, why don't you go with some of the online questions, Margaret, and then that'll trigger
Sure.
you're in the room to speak up.
So one question from Bruce Estock at Weston. He is said, if it's not covered at some point in the presentation, can you comment on the NAU DLA fuel routine maintenance and minor repair fuel program? And specifically, is there a cycle of contract and task order renewal that's coming up in FY23-24? And who is the current program manager?
Yeah, so Margaret, I don't think any of us in the room can answer that question. And you can tell the gentleman that Jill Tefts is the POC, and Jill Tefts can take the question and you can send it to us and we'll make sure that Jill Tefts get back to you and to the others on the answer.
Okay, Jill Tefts, and I'll post Jill's email in the chat, Bruce, if you don't have it already, or you maybe already have it.
Understood.
Okay, and then from Mark Albee at Arcadis, he's wanting to know who is the demolition MATOC program manager?
Demolition program manager is, I'm going by memory, is Jen Aldrich. Ask Jen Aldrich.
Like Jennifer?
Yes, Jennifer Aldrich.
Aldrich.
Aldrich, ALBRIDGE. Aldrich.
Jen Aldrich.
Yes. She's in Greece right
Okay.
now for another project, but she'll be back by Friday.
Okay. And let's see, somebody, I can't remember who it was wanting to know what's the head count at NAU these days?
So, no, that's a good question. I was going to mention that up front. We have seen a lot of people rotate. It's a constant rotation. There's a 5-year rule, and there's exceptions, but generally sticking to a 5-year rule to PCS back to the states. But we have probably increased personnel. We're sitting right just shy of 500 right now. So, I mean, strong workforce, but we always have that constant rotation every year.
And Colonel Dagan, I saw recently on your Facebook page, you all have direct hire authority for some positions, and you're seeking, I think, somebody to go to perhaps, is it Georgia? Yeah, Republic of Georgia.
That's correct. And that direct hire authority, you know, some of the other districts in USACE have had a lot of luck with that. And we're still working with CPAC on exactly how to apply it to the extent some of the other districts have within USACE. A lot of those are very entry-level jobs, which don't necessarily fit well But where we do see benefit is spousal hires locally is a huge benefit to the district, and and other family members. But just working our district counterparts, and see a lot of AFAC or NAFAC, and we see a lot of Air Force as well as other agencies out there. No, we want to work all the human resources opportunities to reach to hire great people. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. All right, from Bruce Estock again at Weston Solutions. He's asking, if not covered at some point in the program, can you comment on the C2F project for the Poland program in terms of timing, release of the RFP, and the dollar range, and whether it will be a standalone contract or procured under the SCIF MATOC?
So C2F in Poland is not a SCIF. It's at 95% design to be completed probably by end of March, early April. We still have some issues with it. So we plan to send it out. We haven't decided yet. It's going to be a standalone contract or a MATOC. And I can't really reveal the dollar amount right here. So, but it's less than 100 million, okay? And if not, the procurement range is, I can also say safely less than 50 million. So yes, the design is undergoing minor changes. We have 95% design. Plan to complete it if everything goes right by end of March, and coming out on the street probably by June timeframe. We have the funding on hand. That's the good news.
Okay. Another question we have, this is from Robert Michaels. Is there any near-term construction program for Slovakia and the Baltic countries?
Slovakia, we do. I'm looking at Al. Al, you can come up and please tell them. I think we do, but.
So Al, as you come up, would you please tell everybody, who you are, what your role is?
Sure. So I'm Al Lucht. I work for the Air Force. I manage the EDI program for the Air Force. So I'm design and construction chief here in Europe. So with Slovakia, the wild card there is there's no defense cooperation agreement. We have given USACE authority to restart the design. So I believe you're reaching out to AEs to probably start getting some negotiations going. But those will not award until DCA is signed and ratified by the Slovakian government. Our understanding is the MOD should be signing the DCA probably next month. They'll go through some sort of public comment period and try to get ratification like late spring, early summer. So, and that's just kind of reading the tea leaves. That's what we're being told by the State Department. Just for clarification, that USACE, Air Force, Army does not negotiate these agreements. That's done strictly by the State Department and OSD policy. And then UCOM is kind of the forward executive agent for OSD with that program.
And Al, can you tell us about what the projects are that are up for design?
A lot of the same type of projects you see with the EDI program, taxiways, cargo pads, MSA, yeah, probably some fuels. So in the Baltics, you probably won't see anything in the Baltics for a while. Just about everything that's going on in the Baltics was awarded early in the program and is under construction. There might be one or two more projects, say, in the 26, 27 timeframe. But Slovakia, there's a lot of stuff queued up there, at least five to six projects that'll be taken off here in the next couple of years. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. From Michael Prudente of Conti, he's asking, will there still be a design build MATOC for Israel coming?
So right now it's been put on ice, pending further notice, because you know, as you saw the shift in the Israel project strategy there. So right now the answer is it's on hold.
Okay. Let's see, I got more questions. Anything in the room yet, Sharice, or I'll keep going?
I think you should keep going. People are shy here.
Okay. So we're not shy online. It's that anonymity, huh?
I'll ask.
Let's see, from Laura.
Margaret, I'll ask a question. While on Colonel Dagan, is there any thought to more renewable energy, microgrids, solar, PV, or what about electrical vehicles, vehicle fleets?
You want to do that? I can answer a few things.
Okay. You know, I guess generally speaking, to start out and not to just kind of dodge the question, but the garrisons are really going to develop that, and what their way forward is. I don't think we're seeing a lot right now. We have the couple UMMCAs down in Italy with the Navy. But beyond that, we don't see anything immediately on the horizon, and definitely not, and maybe John or Roger could speak to, but definitely not with electric vehicles, so to speak. I haven't heard a lot of that discussion, but Lala, is there anything else?
Yeah, the only thing I'll tell you to everybody here, they should know, there's a decree, there was a law passed last year in Germany, okay, for electrical vehicles, mandated. And the decree actually was endorsed by the German government in Bonn. But we, the US at INCOM level, who do the policy for the US forces, have gone back to them, and we were in Bonn just before Christmas, told them that the policy is in the making right now. They're sitting actually with the attorneys in IMCOM, and they're going to publish it. And basically what it's going to say is that we will follow the German law, sure. We'll follow the German law, but how we do the MILCONs and SRM may be a distinction. Okay, but there will be a master plan developed by the garrisons, that's what I was told, to address these issues. So that's the answer that we know of, Margaret, right now.
Okay.
Yes, there's a question in the room.
If you look at the posture and profile of NSPA, it does more and more work like what the Army Corps did in Europe. Can you talk a little bit about if there is a relationship and how that relationship works with NSPA? And sure, how to frame the question, other than I see what they do is much more like what the Army Corps has been doing for the past so many years. And so will NSPA take off or take over some of those programs in the future, or will you coexist next to each other? Are you competitors? How does that work?
Shall I repeat it for the?
Question.
There's just about NSPA and observing that it seems to be a similar entity and doing similar projects that the Army Corps of Engineers has been doing. So just curious how the future looks and collaboration or sharing of work.
So there's no, I will say, even dialogue between NSP and Corps of Engineers. Okay, NSPA has been hired directly by the components. You know, Army did that, and they were doing some projects in Latvia. And I shared those projects. I've looked at them. They briefed me a long time ago. But right now, there's no intentions that I know of. And you know, when Al Lucht comes in the room, we'll ask him. There is no intention right now for at least the Army to go to NSPA. Okay, and we, the Corps, are not really sharing anything with NSPA right now. What happens in the future may be different.
Okay, Sharice, do you want me to jump back to our questions, or?
Go ahead, Margaret.
I can't see if you got more. Okay, so Lawrence Frank is asking, do you expect, how much of the work that we saw in the presentation will go through the master planning and design IDIC for the UCOM AOR? I guess what Lawrence is speaking of is the AE services for master planning IDC.
A lot of it. You know, if the garrisons, which they came to us last year too, they wanted to do master planning, and ADPs, the area development plans, where we really have a very robust team that can execute through the task force, which we've been doing for many, many years. So yeah, I mean, we will execute what we're told to do. But the answer is that, as a matter of fact, we go into the Garrison Ansbach tomorrow, and this is one of the topics we'll bring it to the table, because they gave us like 6 task forces last year to execute on similar nature, and I'm pretty sure that we keep on executing those. I don't know the background of the question there.
Yeah, Lawrence, if you've got more specifics, you could go ahead and post them, or, and I'll, in the meantime, I'll go on to Mark Albee, again from Arcadis, is asking, regarding the demolition MATOC, is there a plan to ensure that contract capacity is fully utilized over the life of the 5-year contract? The last 2 contracts have not been utilized to their full capacity.
So, when we do the capacity measurement, you can see it's 30 million, I think I'll go by memory, and not 50 million or whatever. That's based on the projection that we got from the garrisons, plus Huntsville, who have the worldwide demolition contract, and they pass it on to us too. So, it depends on the funding available and given to us. But I also want to let you know that some of the demolition, we cannot go direct. We have to go to the German government in Germany to do the demolition for various reasons, or environmental reasons or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we'll try our best, but the projection is based on what we got from the garrisons. Over.
Okay. And from Michael Prudente at Conti, he's asking, there's a $400 million MATOC for design bid build in Germany, Belgium, Netherlands. That's in process. When does the district expect to announce a selection?
Chris too is here, and we talked about it yesterday. And I'm free to say, Chris, that our target is to award it in the next 6 to 8 weeks. We should be able to award it. And Chris is nodding north and south.
So next 6 to 8 weeks, Michael. Okay, thank you. And then from Mark Albee at Arcadis again, can you please comment on any further plans to address emerging contaminant PFAS at the garrisons and at the Air Force bases, realizing that there's been some project actions taken over the past few years? Is there a wider overarching strategy?
So here's the strategy, right? In Germany especially, it must be done by the German government. They will never give us permission to tackle PFAS. With very rare occasions we'll get it, but we will continue to test it and do surveys on it to make sure that when we do 1391s and we're doing pre-design, that's addressed. But in Germany, I can tell you, it has to go indirect to the German government.
Okay. And then last question, you mentioned Hungary. There's a IDIQ as an AE contract that's posted, but you mentioned it more in terms of construction. Is there a confusion there? Is it construction or AE services at this point?
So right now, what we showed you today were construction contracts. We already have a IDIQ, as you just mentioned. So what we're doing is we are what we call refreshing, refreshing some of those designs which were on shelf a couple of years ago before the wall money, was pulled away. I mean, for the wall, the money was pulled away by 2808. So yeah, what you saw was construction projects, I think 4 of them. And we have the current IDC out there, which we're going to utilize to actually refresh our designs.
And then construct. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Alrighty. So, and finally, last thing is Lawrence came back with his question about the master planning priorities. He's saying, are the master planning priorities typically driven by the garrisons? If so, is it usually the garrison master planners?
Yes, the answer is they have a master planning board, I think twice a year, and it's purely driven by the garrisons who get blessing from IMCOM headquarters.
Okay. So, and of course that covers the master planning at the garrisons, not to include the MILCON programming type.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so that covers the questions I have online. Sharice, I think you're done as well in the room.
Yeah, we are.
Scott, we'll turn it back over
I
to
just have
you.
one thing I want to ask Justin. Do you have any comments here?
I'll say a few words.
Thank you, Jason.
I certainly can't say anything smarter or better than what Lala said. And I guess I'll go back to some of Scott's opening comments at the beginning of the session that really the partnerships we have with you guys are how we get things done. Lala smartly pointed out that we're expanding into some places that are not our legacy countries. And we don't have staff on board necessarily that know how those things work. So when you're arranging partnerships and going after some of this work, we're really going to need help on kind of the intricacies there. So I would add that. And then just overall, as all of us look at trying to get talent over to Europe during this time, there's challenges involved with that. Lala mentioned schedulers. We know that on the government side, low voltage controls, electrical engineers on some projects are very difficult to find. Getting people that are willing to go to some of these places that aren't as nice as Wiesbaden perhaps is a challenge. And then from the enterprise level, what our headquarters is telling us is we look at the IDA supplemental back home and then also the infrastructure bill, which are good for our industry as a whole, but are going to draw resources and talent back to the States. We're going to have a little bit of a challenge there. So we're going to be more reliant probably than ever on all of the folks in this room to get it done. I think the chief mentioned down through the chain to us that we're something like an organization built to handle $20 billion. We're operating at about 46 billion. And based on what recently came out in the IDA supplemental and the infrastructure bill, we're looking at 86 billion. So we've got a lot to try to figure out, and we'll be working very closely with you all to make that happen here in our theater. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Justin. Hey, Roger, you had anything for the group? Okay. Chris?
No, thank you.
And then you want to close it off?
Okay, so just a couple of things in closing, and I'll be very quick because I know Russ is sitting right there. If you haven't noticed, we're really excited about this program. It comes out probably much more with Lala than me, but we are very excited about this program for multiple reasons, but it's very strategic. So if you look at things that are going on in the world today, and all the actors that want to do ill to the United States and our allies, this program is so far forward that we're helping the warfighter, we're helping building partner capacity, we're helping with defense security cooperation. And because of all that, it's incredibly exciting, it's incredibly strategic. We have a lot of eyes on it. Everyone who takes over a facility that we build together deserves very high quality, deserves a facility that's ready to go, ready to get into, and ready to operate from, because you never know what it means in the future or what we could see in the future of having to operate out of there, what that means. And then at the end of the day, we're also taking care of people in the sense we're taking care of their families, taking care of their kids at the schools, and just making sure people are comfortable, whether it be in uniform or in civilian clothes, as they move forward to operate on behalf of the United States or our allies. They have facilities where their families can be taken care of, and that's medical clinics too. I didn't bring that up the first time. Medical clinics, medical hospitals, housing, and schools. So really exciting, really glad you could be here, really glad you could be online, and look forward to this next year moving forward. Thank you very much. Sharice, thank you.
So we'll soon break for lunch. We had over 50 people online, plus everyone in the room, so it shows a lot of great interest. So really, we thank you for your time coming here and preparing this presentation.